I stood outside my childhood home in the pouring rain, a black garbage bag containing everything I owned at my feet. My parents had just thrown me out because my younger sister Amber got hired at Tech Vision Industries as a junior marketing associate. My mother's final words still echoed in my mind, sharp as broken glass. "It's futile to keep a girl like you in this house." They'd always treated me like I was worthless, always compared me unfavorably to Amber, always made me feel like I didn't belong. What they didn't know, what they couldn't possibly know, was that 3 months ago, I became the CEO of Tech Vision Industries. Tomorrow morning, Amber would start her first day at work. Tomorrow morning, everything would change. The rain soaked through my jacket as I stood there on the sidewalk, but I barely felt it. My mind drifted back through 28 years of memories, each one a small cut that had eventually bled me dry of any hope for my parents' love. Growing up in suburban Philadelphia, I'd learned early that I was the spare, not the heir. Amber arrived 3 years after me, and from the moment she drew her first breath, the world revolved around her. I remember being 7 years old, watching my father hang Amber's finger paintings on the refrigerator with pride, while my straight-A report card sat unopened on the kitchen counter. I remember being 10 when Amber started dance lessons at an expensive studio downtown. I'd asked for guitar lessons that same week. My father looked at me like I'd requested a trip to the moon. "Guitar lessons cost money, Willie. Maybe when you're older and can pay for them yourself." By the time I turned 14, I understood my role in the family. I was the worker, the provider, the one who existed to make things easier for everyone else. I got a job bagging groceries at the local supermarket, working 20 hours a week after school. My manager, an older man named George, used to watch me counting my earnings in the break room and shake his head. "You're too young to look that tired, kid," he'd say. But I'd hand most of that money to my mother every Friday, keeping just enough for lunch at school. Amber never worked a day through high school. She got new clothes every season, went to homecoming and prom in designer dresses, drove a used Honda Civic my parents bought her for her 16th birthday. I wore thrift store jeans and walked 2 miles to school every morning because the bus cost money. When people asked why I didn't have a car, I'd make jokes about loving exercise, about caring for the environment. The truth was too humiliating to speak out loud. I graduated high school with a 3.9 grade point average and an acceptance letter to Temple University. My parents sat me down the night I showed them the letter, excitement making my hands shake. My father glanced at it and set it aside. "College is expensive, Willie. We've been saving for Amber's education. She's going to need our help." My mother nodded, adding, "You're smart. You'll figure something out. You always do." Amber went to Penn State on my parents' dime. She pledged a sorority, posted pictures of parties and football games, came home with C's and D's that my parents praised as good enough. I worked full-time at a warehouse, loading trucks from 6 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon, then attended community college classes at night. I survived on vending machine food and 3 hours of sleep. It took me 3 years to earn my associate degree in business administration, and when I finally held that diploma, I cried in my car in the parking lot. Not because I was happy, because I was so tired. Nobody from my family came to my graduation. 5 years ago, I got an entry-level job at a small tech startup called Innovate Tech. The company was developing project management software, trying to compete with the giants. I started as a customer service representative, but I watched everything, learned everything, stayed late reading code and studying market trends. Within 6 months, I'd written a proposal for a new feature that increased user retention by 32%. The CEO, a sharp woman named Dr. Margaret Chen, called me into her office. "You're wasted in customer service," she said. "How do you feel about operations?" I threw myself into that job like a drowning man grabbing a lifeline. I worked 16-hour days, lived in a tiny studio apartment in a rough neighborhood, survived on ramen and ambition. Every month, I still sent money home. $500, sometimes more. My parents never said thank you. They just asked when I'd get a real job like Amber would have someday. Amber dropped out of Penn State her junior year. She moved back home, slept until noon, worked part-time at a clothing store at the mall when she felt like it. My parents supported her completely, made excuses for her, told anyone who'd listen that she was finding herself. When I called home and mentioned my promotion to operations manager, my mother changed the subject to Amber's new boyfriend. 2 years ago, Innovate Tech merged with a larger firm called Tech Vision Industries. It was a complicated deal. Lots of restructuring, lots of uncertainty. But my work spoke for itself. I'd developed 3 major innovations that brought the company $200 million in new revenue. The board of directors noticed. They started inviting me to meetings, asking my opinion, treating me like I mattered. 8 months ago, the CEO of Tech Vision retired. The board conducted a national search for a replacement. They interviewed candidates from Stanford, from Harvard, from companies 10 times our size. And then they offered the position to me. 28 years old, associate degree from community college, me. I sat in that conference room and stared at the contract, certain I was dreaming. 3 months ago, I signed the papers. 3 months ago, I became the youngest CEO in Tech Vision's history. I wanted to tell my family in person, wanted to see their faces when they realized everything they'd believed about me was wrong. So I kept quiet, planned my moment, waited for the right time. Last week, Amber finally got a job offer. Junior Marketing Associate at Tech Vision Industries, entry-level position, $22 an hour. My parents threw a party like she'd won the Nobel Prize. They invited aunts, uncles, cousins, neighbors. They had a cake made with "Congratulations, Amber" in blue frosting. They hung a banner in the living room. I drove to the party straight from a board meeting, wearing my suit, carrying a bottle of wine. I walked through the door, ready to share my news, ready for everything to change. My father was in the middle of a toast, glass raised high. To Amber, who's always been destined for great things. We always knew she'd make us proud. I waited until he finished, then cleared my throat. Actually, I have some news too. I've been meaning to tell you all. My father cut me off without even looking at me. Nobody cares about your warehouse stories, Willie. This is Amber's day. Don't try to steal her spotlight. People laughed. Amber smirked at me from across the room, surrounded by relatives telling her how wonderful she was. My mother appeared at my father's elbow, her face tight with irritation. Willie, we need to talk to you. In the kitchen, I followed them, still thinking maybe this was the moment. Maybe in private, they'd listen. My mother closed the kitchen door and crossed her arms. Now that Amber has a real career, we need her old room for a home office. You're 28 years old. It's time to stop freeloading. Freeloading. The word came out strangled. I've been paying you $500 a month for 3 years. And we appreciate that, my father said, not sounding appreciative at all. But it's time for you to move on. Pack your things tonight. We need you out by morning. Wait, just listen. I'm actually the... Amber burst through the kitchen door, her voice loud and sharp. God, Willie, stop trying to steal my moment. You've always been jealous. Can't you just be happy for me for once? My parents nodded in agreement, my mother even putting her arm around Amber. She's right, Willie. This is her day. Please don't make this difficult. Something snapped inside me then. Some final thread of hope or love or whatever had kept me tethered to these people for 28 years. I looked at the 3 of them standing there, united against me like they'd always been, and I made a decision. I wouldn't tell them. I'd let them find out on their own. I'd let them realize exactly what they'd thrown away. Fine, I said quietly. I'll be gone in an hour. I packed my belongings into 2 garbage bags, loaded them into my car, and drove away from that house, knowing I'd never come back as their son. The rain started as I pulled onto the highway, and by the time I reached my apartment in the city, it was pouring. I sat in my car in the parking garage of my building, a luxury high-rise in downtown Philadelphia, and laughed until I cried. Tomorrow was Monday. Tomorrow, Amber started her new job. Tomorrow, the whole sorry story would reach its inevitable conclusion. I woke up at 5 in the morning after barely sleeping, adrenaline singing through my veins. I showered, put on my best charcoal suit, tied my tie 3 times until it was perfect. My reflection in the mirror looked calm, professional, but my eyes were burning with something I'd never let myself feel before. Not quite anger. Something colder. Something that felt like justice. Tech Vision headquarters occupied a 40-story glass tower in downtown Philadelphia. right in the heart of the business district. I'd worked in this building for 2 years, but it never stopped impressing me. The lobby was all marble and steel, with a waterfall feature along one wall and the company logo etched into the floor in brass. Security guards nodded respectfully as I walked past. The elevator to the executive floors required a special key card. Mine was black with gold lettering. Willie Bradford, Chief Executive Officer. My office took up the entire northwest corner of the 40th floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of the city that still took my breath away some mornings. My desk was a massive thing made of reclaimed wood, and behind it hung my degrees, framed and matted. My associate degree from community college and an honorary doctorate TechVision's board had arranged from Drexel University 6 months ago. On my credenza sat photos of people who'd believed in me. Dr. Chen from Innovate Tech, George from the grocery store, Professor Martinez from community college. No photos of my family. My executive assistant, Caroline, knocked and entered at exactly 7:30. She was a woman in her 50s, brilliant and efficient, with steel gray hair and reading glasses on a chain. She'd been with TechVision for 15 years and knew everything about everyone. "Good morning, Mr. Bradford. Your executive meeting starts in 30 minutes. I have the briefing materials ready." "Thank you, Caroline. One more thing." I kept my voice casual. "What time is new employee orientation today?" She consulted her tablet. 10 o'clock sharp. 20 new hires starting today across various departments. HR Director Frank is running it. Add me to that session. Tell Frank I'd like to welcome the new employees personally. Caroline's eyebrows rose slightly. I'd never attended an orientation before. Of course. I'll let him know immediately. The executive meeting dragged. We discussed quarterly earnings, expansion plans, a potential merger with a firm in Boston. My CFO, a man named Richard, presented projections. My COO, a woman named Susan, outlined operational improvements. I participated, asked questions, made decisions. But part of my mind was counting down the minutes until 10 o'clock. At 9:55, I excused myself and took the elevator down to the 15th floor. The orientation room was a large conference space, with rows of chairs facing a presentation screen. 20 people sat scattered throughout, most looking nervous and excited. And there, in the front row, sat Amber. She wore a blue blouse and black pants, her hair pulled back in a professional ponytail. She was chatting with the person next to her, laughing loudly about something, gesturing with her hands. Her whole posture screamed confidence, entitlement. She belonged here, her body language said. She'd earned this. I stood in the hallway, watching through the glass door. Frank stood at the front of the room, checking his notes. At exactly 10 o'clock, he called the room to attention. "Welcome, everyone, to TechVision Industries. We're thrilled to have you joining our team. Today we'll cover company policies, benefits, culture, and expectations. But first, I have a special surprise." Frank glanced toward the door, and I took that as my cue. I opened it and stepped inside. 20 pairs of eyes turned toward me. Amber was checking her phone and didn't look up immediately. "Everyone," Frank continued, "I'd like to introduce someone very special. Please welcome our Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Willie Bradford." The room erupted in applause. People stood, and Amber's head snapped up so fast I heard her gasp from across the room. Her phone slipped from her hands and clattered onto the floor. The color drained from her face like someone had pulled a plug. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. No sound came out. I walked to the front of the room, shook Frank's hand, and turned to face the new employees. Amber sat frozen, her eyes locked on me with an expression of pure horror. I let the moment stretch, let her sit in her shock and confusion. "Good morning," I said, my voice warm and professional. "Thank you all for choosing TechVision. This company was built on innovation, integrity, and hard work. We value every member of our team, from our newest hires to our most senior leaders. Success here isn't about where you came from or who you know. It's about what you contribute, how you grow, and the dedication you bring every single day." I paused, let my eyes scan the room. When they passed over Amber, she flinched. "I started my career in customer service. I know what it's like to be new. to feel uncertain, to wonder if you belong. Let me tell you something. You do belong. You earned your place here through your skills and your potential. Never forget that. More applause. I continued with some thoughts about company culture, about our commitment to employee development, about the opportunities available to those who worked hard. Standard CEO speech, but I meant every word. I'd lived it. Now, I like to personally meet our new team members. It helps me remember that this company is built on people, not just products. Please, line up and introduce yourselves. The new employees formed a line. I shook each hand, asked about their role, offered encouragement. Amber hung back, practically pressed against the wall. She kept looking toward the door like she was calculating whether she could escape. When the line dwindled and she was one of only 3 people left, I called out, "Excuse me, you in the blue blouse. Please don't leave yet. I'd like to meet everyone." Amber walked toward me like she was approaching a guillotine. Her hands were shaking. She couldn't meet my eyes. The other 2 employees introduced themselves and moved away, leaving just the 2 of us. I extended my hand, my expression professionally pleasant. "Welcome to Tech Vision. Have we met before?" Amber stared at my hand like it might bite her. She took it limply, her palm sweaty. "Willie," she whispered. "I didn't know. We had no idea. I'm sorry. Do I know you personally?" "I prefer to keep professional boundaries with employees. It's company policy." Her eyes widened. "I'm your sister, Amber. You were just at our house 2 days ago. They threw you out." I smiled. Her voice cracked. "I smiled at you." I withdrew my hand, wiped it on my handkerchief, tucked the cloth back in my pocket. "My family lives in Seattle. I think you have me confused with someone else. Enjoy your first day, Miss Bradford. Amber Bradford. We have the same last name. Bradford is a common name. I'm sure it's just a coincidence." I turned to Frank. "Thank you for allowing me to meet our new team. I'll let you continue with orientation." I walked toward the door. Behind me, Amber called out, "Willie, please, don't do this." I paused, looked back. My voice stayed level, almost kind. "I don't know who you think I am, but I'm not the person you're looking for. Good luck in your new position." The door closed behind me, and I heard her start to cry. The sound followed me down the hallway. I should have felt satisfaction. Instead, I felt hollow. Back in my office, Caroline had left a note on my desk. "Your 3 o'clock meeting has been moved to 4. And, Mr. Bradford, whatever you're planning with that new hire, be careful. I've worked here long enough to recognize a reckoning when I see one." I crumpled the note and threw it away. Caroline was too perceptive for her own good. Amber must have left work early, because by 6 o'clock that evening, my phone started ringing. Private number. I didn't answer. A text message followed. "Willie, it's Dad. We need to talk. There's been a terrible misunderstanding." I deleted it without responding. 3 more calls came in the next hour. Then 5 text messages. Then an email to my company account that my assistant flagged and deleted per my instructions. By 9 o'clock, my phone buzzed with a message from my mother. "Please, Willie. We're sorry. Let us explain. Come home." Home. As if that place had ever been my home. I turned off my phone and went to bed. The next morning, Caroline greeted me with her usual efficiency, but also with concern in her eyes. "Your parents called the main office line 17 times yesterday evening. Security logged them attempting to enter the building twice. They were turned away both times." "Good. If they continue, have security file a no trespass order." "Yes, sir." She hesitated. For what it's worth, the new hire, Amber Bradford, she was 45 minutes late this morning. Her supervisor, Helen, documented it. I'd hired Helen 3 months ago specifically because she was exacting and fair. She tolerated no excuses and played no favorites. Thank you for letting me know. That afternoon, I had back-to-back meetings with department heads. We were launching a new product in 6 weeks, and every detail needed to be perfect. Around 3 o'clock, my office phone buzzed. Caroline's voice came through. "Sir, there's a situation in the east hallway. Amber Bradford is attempting to speak with you." I grabbed my suit jacket. "I'll handle it." I found Amber standing outside the executive elevator, wringing her hands. 3 of my senior executives stood nearby, looking uncomfortable. When Amber saw me approaching, she stepped forward. "Willie, please, just 5 minutes, that's all I'm asking." My executives looked at me, uncertain. I kept my expression neutral. "I'm sorry. Do we know each other?" "Stop it!" Her voice rose, echoing down the hallway. "Stop pretending you don't know me. I'm your sister." I turned to my executives. "Do any of you know this employee?" They shook their heads, clearly confused by the situation. I addressed Amber directly, my tone still professional but firm. "If you continue to harass me, I'll have to report this to Human Resources. Please return to your department." "You can't do this." Tears streamed down her face. "We're family. You can't just pretend we don't exist." "I don't have any family in Philadelphia." "Now, excuse me. I have work to do." I walked past her toward my office. Behind me, I heard her sob, heard her say, "Mom and Dad are going crazy. They're losing their minds over this. Please." I kept walking. Helen, Amber's supervisor, had witnessed the entire exchange from her office nearby. She stepped into the hallway and pulled Amber aside. I couldn't hear what was said, but I saw Helen's stern expression, saw Amber's shoulders shake. Later, Caroline informed me that Amber had received a formal written warning for unprofessional conduct. That evening, as I left the building at 7, I found my parents waiting in the lobby. Security had stopped them at the elevators, and they stood by the fountain, looking lost and desperate. My father had aged 10 years in 3 days. My mother's eyes were red and swollen. They spotted me as I crossed toward the exit. My father rushed forward, security moving to intercept. "Sir," the guard said to me, "these individuals claim to be related to you. Should we remove them?" I looked at my parents. Really looked at them. My father in his rumpled suit, his tie askew. My mother clutching her purse like a lifeline. They looked smaller than I remembered. Diminished. "I don't know these people," I said clearly. "If they continue to loiter, please contact the police." My mother let out a sound like an animal in pain. "Willie, please. We're your parents. Gerald and Patricia Bradford. We raised you." I turned to the security guard. "My parents live in Seattle. These people are mistaken." I walked out into the evening air, got into my car, and drove away. In my rearview mirror, I saw my mother collapse against my father, saw him hold her up. The hollow feeling in my chest grew deeper. Over the next week, things escalated. My parents contacted my office daily. They sent letters, flowers, even a singing telegram that Caroline intercepted. They showed up at the building every evening. Security began escorting them out. Other employees started to notice, started to whisper. Amber's performance at work deteriorated rapidly. She missed deadlines, made errors, seemed distracted and unfocused. Helen documented everything in her employee file. On day 8, Amber made a significant mistake. She sent draft marketing materials to a major client instead of the final approved version. The materials contained errors, placeholder text, and unfinished graphics. The client called my office directly to complain. I called a meeting with Helen and Amber. We sat in a small conference room. Amber looking like she hadn't slept in days. Helen looking professionally disappointed. I reviewed Amber's file. Multiple errors in less than 2 weeks. Tardiness. The incident with the client is particularly concerning. This mistake cost us a $15,000 contract. Amber's voice was barely a whisper. "I'm sorry. I've been dealing with family problems. Personal issues aren't the company's concern," I said, keeping my tone even. Tech Vision expects professionalism regardless of outside circumstances. You're being placed on probation. One more significant error, and your employment will be terminated. "Willie, please. It's Mr. Bradford. This meeting is concluded." I stood, gathered my papers. "You're doing this because you hate us," Amber said, her voice breaking. "You're punishing me because of what happened." I paused at the door. "I'm holding you to the same standard as every other employee. If you can't meet that standard, perhaps this isn't the right position for you." I left the room. That night, my father took desperate measures. He showed up at the Tech Vision building with a handmade sign reading, "CEO Willie Bradford, please talk to your father." He stood on the sidewalk in the business district, holding that sign for 3 hours. Passersby stopped, took pictures, posted videos on social media. By evening, the videos were spreading online. Captions like "Desperate Dad begs CEO son for help" and "Family drama at TechVision." My PR team alerted me to the situation. I watched one of the videos. My father, looking haggard and broken, telling someone off camera, "He's my son. I just want to talk to him. I made mistakes, but he's my son." The video had 70,000 views in 2 hours. My head of PR, a sharp man named Daniel, sat across from my desk looking worried. This is becoming a problem. The story's gaining traction. People are sympathetic to him. We need to get ahead of it. I drafted a statement, had legal review it, and released it through official company channels. A man claiming to be a relative has been harassing TechVision Industries and creating disturbances outside our facility. These claims are false. I have no family in Philadelphia. This matter has been referred to local authorities. TechVision does not tolerate harassment of our employees or leadership. The statement went public at 9 o'clock that night. By midnight, it had been picked up by local news outlets. The next morning, Amber burst into my office without knocking, bypassing Caroline entirely. I was on a conference call with investors in Tokyo. Amber's face was red, her eyes wild. "You called the police on Dad?" I held up one finger, finished my sentence to the investors in Japanese, then said, "Gentlemen, I'll need to call you back. 5 minutes." I ended the call and looked at Amber. "You just violated the terms of your probation by entering my office without permission. This has gone too far." She slammed her hands on my desk. "We get it. We were wrong. We treated you badly. But you're destroying us." I pressed the intercom button. "Security to the executive floor, please." "I'm your sister. Doesn't that mean anything?" I stood slowly, came around the desk. Amber took a step back. "You smiled," I said quietly. "When they threw me out in the rain, you stood there and smiled. You called me jealous. You told them I was trying to steal your moment. You enjoyed every second of it. I was wrong. I was horrible. I admit it." Tears poured down her face. "But this, what you're doing, it's cruel. You're making us lose everything." 2 security guards appeared at the door. I gestured to Amber. "Escort this employee out of the building. She's suspended pending a termination review." "You're a monster," Amber spat as the guards took her arms. "You're worse than we ever were." "Perhaps," I said. "But I learned from the best." They dragged her out, her screams echoing down the hallway. My staff stood in their offices, watching, shocked and silent. I returned to my desk, picked up the phone, called Tokyo back. My hand shook slightly as I dialed. That night, alone in my apartment, I stood at the window looking out at the city lights. On my coffee table sat an old photograph I'd found while packing. Me at age 8, missing my front teeth, holding a school science fair trophy. My parents weren't in the photo. They hadn't come to the fair. For the first time since this started, I felt something crack in my chest. Not regret, exactly, but something close to it. I pushed the feeling down, deep down where it couldn't touch me. I'd come too far to stop now. Amber's termination became official on a Thursday morning. Helen delivered the news personally, in a brief meeting in HR, with a witness present. Amber signed the paperwork with shaking hands, gathered the few personal items from her desk, and left the building. She'd worked at TechVision for exactly 2 weeks. I heard about it from Caroline, who heard it from Helen, who filed the termination report according to protocol. I read the report in my office, noted the cause: violation of probation terms, insubordination, unauthorized entry to restricted areas. Everything by the book, everything legally sound. I initialed the report and filed it away. That same day, my parents received a foreclosure notice. I knew because my father posted about it on social media, a desperate plea that went viral within hours. Our son is a CEO making millions, while his family loses everything. He won't return our calls. He's had us removed from his building by police. What happened to family? What happened to forgiveness? The post had 300,000 views by noon. My phone started ringing off the hook. Board members called, concerned about the PR situation. Major clients called, asking delicate questions about my character. The company's stock price dipped 2% on what analysts called leadership concerns. Daniel, my PR director, called an emergency meeting. We need to address this. The narrative is getting away from us. People are starting to believe their version. What would you suggest? I kept my voice level. A statement. Your side of the story. Let people know what really happened. My personal life isn't their business. It is when it affects the company. Daniel pulled up social media on his laptop, showed me the trending hashtags. CEO Revenge, Family First, Tech Vision Scandal. You're being portrayed as a heartless executive who abandoned his family. That's not good for business. I looked at the posts. Thousands of comments, most of them negative toward me. People who knew nothing about my life, nothing about what I'd endured, judging me based on a few viral videos. Set up a press conference, I said finally. Tomorrow afternoon, I'll tell my story. All of it. Daniel looked relieved. Good. We'll prepare talking points. Get legal to review everything. No talking points. I'll speak from the heart. That's the only way this works. Meanwhile, my parents' situation grew increasingly desperate. The foreclosure was real. They'd taken a second mortgage 2 years earlier to fund Amber's lifestyle and various home improvements they couldn't afford. Between that and regular expenses, they were underwater. The payment was due in 1 week. $3,000 they didn't have. My father tried everything. He went to his bank, was denied a loan extension. He called relatives, asking for help. One by one, they all refused. Word had spread through the extended family about what they'd done, how they'd treated me. Nobody wanted to be associated with it. My mother's sister, Aunt Joyce, lived in Wilmington. She'd always been kind to me, one of the few relatives who noticed when I went hungry or worked myself to exhaustion. My father called her as a last resort. I know what she said because she called me afterward. Willie, your father just asked me for $3,000. I told him no. I told him he made his bed and now he has to lie in it. I wanted you to know I'm on your side. What they did to you was unforgivable. Thank you, Aunt Joyce. But Willie, are you okay? Really okay? Because hurting them won't heal you. I didn't have an answer for that. We said goodbye, and I sat in my office staring at the wall for 20 minutes. The press conference was scheduled for 2 o'clock on Friday. My legal team prepared documents. Caroline arranged the conference room. Daniel briefed the media. At 1:30, I stood in my private bathroom, straightening my tie, practicing what I'd say. My hands were steadier than I expected. At 1:45, Caroline knocked. They're ready for you. Full house. Every major outlet in Philadelphia, plus some nationals. This is big. I know. Mr. Bradford? Willie? For what it's worth, I think you're doing the right thing. I smiled at her. Grateful. Let's hope the world agrees. The conference room was packed. Cameras lined the back wall. Reporters filled every seat. Notebooks ready. Recorders running. I walked to the podium, adjusted the microphone, and looked out at dozens of faces waiting to judge me. Thank you all for coming, I began. I'm here today to address the allegations and videos that have been circulating about my family situation. I'm going to tell you a story. It's not a pleasant story, but it's the truth. I started at the beginning, growing up as the forgotten child, working at 14, wearing thrift store clothes while Amber got designer labels, paying my own way through community college, sending money home every month while they questioned my worth. The party where they kicked me out because Amber got a job. I had receipts. I pulled them out, showed the cameras. Bank statements proving monthly payments to my parents for 3 years. Texts from my father demanding money. Voicemails where my mother criticized my career choices. An email from my father from 2 years ago. Willie, your mother needs $400 for Amber's car insurance. Don't bother coming to Thanksgiving if you can't help family. The room was silent, except for the click of cameras. I told them about becoming CEO, about wanting to share the news, about being cut off and dismissed, about standing in the rain with garbage bags, about my sister's smile. My voice cracked when I talked about that smile. I hadn't meant for it to, but it did. I loved them. I wanted their approval so badly it consumed me for 28 years, and they threw me away the moment they thought my sister had surpassed me. Not because I'd failed, but because someone else succeeded. A reporter raised her hand. Mr. Bradford, if you felt this way, why did you anonymously pay off their mortgage? We confirmed that payment was made from an account linked to you. The room erupted in surprised murmurs. I hadn't planned to admit that, because despite everything, they're still my parents. I couldn't let them lose their home. So you do care about them? I don't know what I feel anymore. I know they're losing their house because of choices they made. I know they treated me terribly for most of my life. I also know that wanting to hurt people who hurt you doesn't make you feel better. It just makes you feel empty. Another reporter. What do you want from this press conference? The truth. That's all. I want people to know the truth before they judge me. The press conference ended 20 minutes later. I walked out exhausted, drained, feeling like I'd stripped myself bare in front of the world. Daniel met me in the hallway, grinning. That was perfect. Genuine emotion, solid evidence, sympathetic without being weak. The coverage is going to be favorable. Back in my office, I collapsed into my chair. Caroline brought me water, told me I'd done well, left me alone. I sat there as the sun set over Philadelphia, as the office emptied out, as the city lights flickered on one by one. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Mrs. Patterson, your third-grade teacher. I saw your press conference. I'm proud of you, Willie. I always knew you were special. That must have been so hard. More messages followed. Professor Martinez from community college, George from the grocery store, old coworkers, people I'd forgotten about, people who remembered me. And then, a message from my father. I watched your press conference. You made us sound like monsters. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I typed back. I made you sound exactly like what you were. I hit send and turned off my phone. The press conference changed everything overnight. The video went viral, racking up 12 million views in 24 hours. Social media exploded with support, Justice for Willie trending worldwide. News outlets ran analysis pieces. Morning shows invited me to appear. Legal experts discussed family favoritism and golden child syndrome on cable news. But my parents weren't ready to surrender. 2 days after the press conference, they held one of their own. They reached out to a local news station, gave an interview, told their version of events. My father, sitting in their living room with my mother beside him, looked directly into the camera. Willie was always difficult. He resented Amber from the moment she was born. We tried to treat them equally, but he pushed us away. He wanted to be independent, refused our help, and now he's twisting everything to make himself look like a victim. My mother, dabbing at her eyes. We made mistakes. What parents don't? But to abandon us completely, to let us lose our home, to get Amber fired? That's not the son we raised. That's cruelty. The interview aired during prime time. The reporter asked pointed questions, but my parents had answers for everything. They painted me as vindictive, unforgiving, someone who held grudges. They showed old family photos, Christmas mornings, birthday parties, vacations. In every photo, everyone was smiling. They looked like a normal, happy family. They never showed photos of me alone at my high school graduation or at my community college graduation, because they hadn't taken any, because they hadn't been there. The interview got 3 million views. Comment sections split into 2 camps, those who believed my story and those who thought I'd gone too far. Family is family, one highly liked comment read. What kind of person destroys their own parents over old wounds? At Tech Vision, the board called another emergency meeting. Chairman Douglas sat at the head of the table, his expression grave. The other 6 board members looked equally concerned. Douglas folded his hands. Willie, we support you. We believe your account of what happened. But this situation is affecting the company. Stock prices are down 5%. We've had 3 major clients express concerns about the negative publicity. I understand. Board member Harold, a man in his 60s who'd always been kind to me, leaned forward. Son, have you considered a settlement? Pay them a sum, sign confidentiality agreements, move on. These family disputes are messy. Sometimes the cleanest solution is the costly one. No, I won't pay them to go away. That would validate their behavior. suggest I'm in the wrong. Douglas sighed. We're not asking you to admit fault. We're asking you to consider what's best for the company. If this escalates further, if the negative coverage continues, we may have no choice but to ask you to take a temporary leave of absence. The words hit like a physical blow. You're benching me because my parents are lying? We're protecting the company, Douglas said gently. You understand that, don't you? You'd do the same in our position. I did understand. But understanding didn't make it hurt less. Back in my office, I found an email from a major client, a tech firm in California we'd partnered with on a $50 million project. Given the current controversies surrounding TechVision's leadership, we're reconsidering our partnership. Please understand this isn't personal. It's about protecting our brand reputation. Another client called that afternoon, expressing similar concerns. My assistant fielded 6 media requests asking for comments on the CEO family feud. A third client suspended their contract pending resolution of current leadership concerns. Everything I'd built was crumbling because of them. That evening, I worked late, alone in the office. The cleaning staff came through, wished me good night, left me in silence. At midnight, I stood at my window looking down at the streets below. Somewhere out there, my parents were probably awake too, probably planning their next move. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Willie. It's Amber. I should have hung up. I didn't. What do you want? Mom's in the hospital. Her voice was thick with tears. She had a breakdown. Full panic attack. Thought she was dying. They admitted her for observation. Dad's a wreck. And it's all because of this. Because of us. Because of everything. I closed my eyes. That's not my fault. I'm not saying it is. I'm saying it's killing them. Whatever they did, whatever we all did, is this really worth it? Is destroying them going to make you feel better? I'm not destroying them. I'm just not saving them. That's the same thing. And you know it. A pause. She's asking for you. Mom. She wants to see you. No. Willie. Please. I know I have no right to ask. I know I was awful to you. But she's your mother. She's in a hospital bed crying because her son won't speak to her. Doesn't that mean something? It did mean something. That was the problem. Which hospital? Jefferson. Room 312. I hung up without responding. Sat there for another hour, debating. Finally, at 1 a.m, I grabbed my coat and drove to the hospital. Jefferson was quiet at that hour. I took the elevator to the 3rd floor, found room 312. Through the small window in the door, I saw my mother in the bed, small and frail under white sheets. My father sat in the chair beside her, his head in his hands. Amber stood by the window, staring out at nothing. I could walk in there. I could forgive them. I could end this entire nightmare with a few words. I stood outside that door for 10 minutes. Then I turned around and left. On my way out, I stopped at the nurse's station. The patient in 312. Make sure she gets the best care. Send all bills to this address. I handed her my business card. Charge everything to me. But don't tell them who's paying. The nurse looked confused but nodded. Of course, sir. I drove home and didn't sleep at all that night. The next morning, Caroline informed me that my parents had organized a protest outside TechVision headquarters. 20 people with signs. Family matters. CEO has no heart. Forgiveness, not revenge. Local news cameras recorded everything. My father gave interviews, crying on camera. I just want to talk to my son. That's all. Just talk. By noon, the protest had grown to 50 people. By evening, over 100. My board called another meeting. Douglas didn't waste time. Willie, this has become untenable. Effective immediately, you're taking a paid leave of absence until this situation resolves. You're firing me. We're protecting you and the company. 2 weeks. Get this sorted out. Come back when it's done. I stood up, buttoned my jacket. I built this company into what it is today. I brought in $200 million in revenue. I earned this position. And nobody is taking it away permanently. 2 weeks, Willie. That's all. I walked out of that boardroom knowing 2 weeks might turn into forever. The forced leave hit the news within hours. Headlines screamed, Tech Vision CEO benched amid family scandal. Social media exploded with hot takes. Some supported the board's decision. Others called it cowardly. My professional reputation, built over years of hard work, was disintegrating in real time. I spent the first day of my leave in my apartment, curtains drawn, phone silenced. I'd lost control of the narrative. My parents had successfully positioned themselves as victims, and I was the villain. The truth didn't matter. Perception did. On day 2, Daniel called. We need to shift strategy. The press conference wasn't enough. People forget facts, but they remember emotions. Your parents are playing the emotion card, and they're winning. What are you suggesting? Another press conference, but bigger. Public support, character witnesses, people who can verify your story. I'm on leave. The board won't approve it. The board works for shareholders. If we can turn public opinion, they'll have no choice but to reinstate you. Give me 24 hours. I had nothing to lose. Daniel worked magic. He contacted everyone from my past. Teachers, professors, former employers, co-workers. He found people I'd forgotten existed, and he convinced them to come forward. 72 hours after my leave began, we held a press conference at a hotel conference room, independent of Tech Vision. The room was packed even fuller than before. National media had arrived. CNN, Fox, MSNBC, NPR. This was no longer just a local story. I stood at the podium in a simple suit, no tie, trying to look human rather than corporate. Thank you for coming. 3 days ago, my company asked me to take leave because my family situation was affecting our business. I understand their decision. What I don't understand is how my parents have successfully convinced people that I'm the villain in this story. So today, I've brought witnesses, people who knew me, who saw what happened, who can verify the truth. The first person to stand was Mrs. Patterson, my third-grade teacher. She was 78 now, retired, living in a nursing home. But her mind was sharp, and her words were devastating. I taught Willie Bradford when he was 8 years old, she began, her voice steady. He was the brightest student I'd taught in 30 years. I called his parents 6 times to tell them. They never called back. I invited them to an awards ceremony, where Willie received the district mathematics prize. They didn't come. At parent-teacher conferences, his mother asked me twice if I thought his younger sister would be smart too. She never asked about Willie. She pulled out an old grade book, showed it to the cameras. In spidery handwriting, notes from decades ago, called Bradford Parents Re. Willie's Excellence. No response. Mother seemed disinterested in Willie's progress, focused on younger daughter. Willie arrived to awards ceremony alone, took bus. Parents didn't attend. Next came Professor Martinez from community college. Willie took my business management course 5 years ago. He worked full-time during the day, attended classes at night, consistently performed at the highest level. One evening, his parents came to pick him up after class because his car had broken down. I introduced myself, told them their son was the best student I'd taught in 20 years. His father said, "That's nice," and asked if I thought Willie was wasting his time with education. He suggested Willie should just work full-time to help support the family. More people stood. George from the grocery store where I'd worked at 14. Willie was a kid, but he worked like a grown man. He'd come in after school, work until closing, do homework in the break room. I paid him in cash every Friday. I watched him count it, take 3/4 of the money, and put it in an envelope marked Mom, every single week. Kid was 14 years old supporting his family, a former coworker from the warehouse, a neighbor from my childhood who remembered my parents doting on Amber while I mowed lawns for money. My community college guidance counselor who'd tried to contact my parents about scholarship opportunities and was told they didn't have time for that right now. 12 people in total, 12 witnesses to 28 years of neglect. The room was silent except for the click of cameras and the scratch of pens on paper. Social media erupted in real time. I watched the tide turn, watched Justice for Willie surge back to the top of trending topics. Then, the door opened. My parents walked in with Amber. They pushed through the crowd, my father's face red with anger. "This is a circus. These people are lying. I stepped back from the podium, let them approach. Then prove it. Show your evidence. Show anything that contradicts what these people are saying. We don't need evidence. We're your parents. My mother's voice cracked. We gave you life. Mrs. Patterson stood up. Giving birth doesn't make you a parent. Loving, supporting, and believing in your child makes you a parent. You did none of those things. Who are you to judge us? My father shouted. You're a stranger. I'm someone who saw a little boy come to school hungry more times than I can count, Mrs. Patterson replied, her voice strong despite her age. I kept crackers in my desk for him. I bought him a winter coat with my own money, because he came to school in November wearing a thin jacket. I was more of a parent to Willie in one school year than you were in 18. My mother lunged forward. Security moved to intercept, but I waved them off. She stopped in front of me, looking up at my face. You're destroying us. You're making everyone think we're monsters. I'm telling the truth. If the truth makes you look like monsters, maybe that's what you are. We made mistakes. We're sorry. Isn't that enough? No, I said simply. Sorry doesn't undo 28 years. Sorry doesn't give me back my childhood. Sorry doesn't erase standing in the rain with garbage bags. Amber spoke up, her voice barely audible. Willie, please, what do you want? What can we possibly do to make this right? I looked at the three of them. Really looked at them. They were beaten, broken. Everything they'd built their lives on was exposed as hollow. I want you to tell the truth. Right here, right now, on camera. Tell everyone what really happened. Stop lying. Stop playing victims. Just tell the truth. Silence stretched out. My father's jaw worked. My mother started crying. Amber stared at the floor. Then, slowly, my father nodded. He approached the podium. The room held its breath. My name is Gerald Bradford. I'm Willie's father. He paused, swallowed hard. Everything he said is true. We favored our daughter. We neglected our son. We took his money, ignored his achievements, and made him feel worthless. And when he finally succeeded beyond anything we imagined, we threw him out because we were jealous and small and couldn't face our own failures as parents. My mother stepped forward, tears streaming. I'm Patricia Bradford. I'm a terrible mother. I let my own insecurities and jealousy poison my relationship with my brilliant, wonderful son. I made him feel unwanted in his own home. And I'm sorry. I know that's not enough. But I'm so sorry. Amber was last. I'm Amber Bradford. I smiled when they threw Willie out. I enjoyed his pain because it made me feel superior. I've been riding on unearned confidence my whole life while Willie worked for everything. I'm ashamed of who I am, who I've been. Willie deserves better than all of us. The room erupted. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. My family stood there, exposed and honest for the first time in their lives. I approached the podium one final time. Thank you for that. It doesn't fix anything, but it's a start. To everyone watching, this isn't a story about revenge. It's about truth. It's about what happens when favoritism goes unchecked, when parents fail their children, when family becomes toxic. I didn't destroy my family. They destroyed themselves. I just refused to keep their secrets anymore. The press conference ended. My family left quietly. No more protests, no more lies. The video went viral immediately. 20 million views in 12 hours. Public opinion swung decisively in my favor. The board called me that evening. Come back Monday. Your leave is over. I'd won. But victory felt stranger than I'd imagined. 6 months passed. The scandal faded from headlines, replaced by newer controversies and fresher outrage. TechVision's stock recovered, climbed higher than before. We secured major contracts, expanded into 3 new markets, launched 2 successful products. My position as CEO was never questioned again. The board held a special meeting 3 weeks after the final press conference. Chairman Douglas opened with unexpected words. Willie, you handled an impossible situation with integrity. You stood up for yourself when it would have been easier to cave. You exposed a system of family favoritism that needed exposing. We're proud to have you leading this company, and we want you to know your position is secure. That vote of confidence meant more than I'd expected. Not because I needed their approval, but because I'd earned it on my own merits, not through family connections or unearned privilege. My story sparked a national conversation. Psychologists appeared on talk shows discussing golden child syndrome, scapegoat dynamics, and family favoritism. Support groups formed online for people with similar experiences. I received thousands of emails from adults who'd grown up as the forgotten child, the overlooked one, the family scapegoat. Their stories broke my heart and validated my own pain. I couldn't respond to them all personally. Instead, I channeled that energy into something constructive. I established the Every Child Matters Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to providing scholarships, mentorship, and support to overlooked children and families. Kids who worked jobs to support their families. Kids whose achievements went uncelebrated. Kids who felt invisible in their own homes. The foundation's first year, we awarded 50 scholarships. By year 2, we'd expanded to 200. We partnered with schools to identify struggling students from difficult family situations. We provided counseling, tutoring, and most importantly, recognition. We threw award ceremonies for kids whose parents didn't show up to their events. We celebrated every achievement, no matter how small. Running the foundation became the most meaningful work of my life. 3 months after the press conference, Caroline buzzed my office intercom. "Sir, someone is here to see you. He says it's important." "Who is it?" A pause. "Your father. He's asking, not demanding. I can send him away if you prefer." I sat at my desk, staring at the phone. I hadn't spoken to my parents since that day. They'd respected my boundaries, kept their distance, made no attempts to contact me. Part of me had expected them to try again, to push, to demand. The silence had been both a relief and somehow disappointing. Send him up. My father appeared 5 minutes later, looking diminished. He'd lost weight, aged visibly. He stood awkwardly by the door, holding an envelope. He wore an inexpensive suit, wrinkled at the knees. His eyes were different somehow. Clearer, sadder. "Sit down," I said. He sat in the chair across from my desk, the same chair where executives and board members usually Saturday. He looked small in it. We sat in silence for a long moment. "I don't expect forgiveness," he finally said. His voice was rough, like he'd been crying. "I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to see this." He handed me the envelope. I opened it. Inside was a check for $38,000 and a spreadsheet detailing every payment I'd sent home over the years. Dates, amounts, what the money was used for. Most of it had gone to Amber. Car insurance, rent, spending money, credit card bills. "That's every dollar you sent us. Your mother and I calculated it down to the penny. We're paying you back. This is the first payment, $5,000. The rest will come monthly. It might take us 7, 8 years to pay it all, but we will." I looked at the check, then at him. "Where did you get $5,000? "Sold your mother's jewelry. Some things from the house. I picked up weekend shifts at work. We're downsizing, moving to a smaller place, cutting every expense we can. You don't have to do this." "Yes, we do. It's the only way we can begin to make amends. Not that money fixes anything, but it's something." I set the check on my desk. Why now? Why not 3 months ago, right after the press conference? Because 3 months ago, we were still thinking about ourselves, about our shame, our embarrassment, our losses. We were in counseling, going through the motions, but not really hearing anything. Then last month, our therapist asked us a question that changed everything. What question? She asked what we'd done to earn your love. Not your obligation as a son, your love. And we couldn't answer. We sat there for 20 minutes in silence because we couldn't think of a single thing. Not one moment of genuine love or support or pride. And I realized, sitting in that office, that we'd wasted 28 years. We had this incredible son, this brilliant, determined, good person, and we destroyed that relationship because we were too broken to see what was right in front of us. His voice cracked. Tears rolled down his face. He didn't wipe them away. "Your therapist helped you see that?" I asked. "She helped us see a lot of things. About why we favored Amber. Your mother and I, we grew up in difficult homes ourselves. We were both the children our parents were disappointed in. We weren't smart enough, successful enough, whatever enough. When you came along, brilliant and capable, you reminded us of our failures. And Amber, struggling and needing help, she made us feel needed, feel useful. We could be the heroes saving her. But you didn't need saving. You threatened our fragile egos just by being excellent. So you tore me down to build yourselves up. Yes, and that's unforgivable. But I wanted you to know we finally understand what we did. We finally see you. He stood up, prepared to leave. That's all. I won't take more of your time. Dad. The word felt strange in my mouth. He stopped, turned. The foundation I started. The Every Child Matters Foundation. I need someone to help manage the family outreach program. It involves working with parents who are struggling, helping them see patterns of favoritism before they cause permanent damage. It's hard work. It doesn't pay much, maybe $40,000 a year, but it's important work. He stared at me, not understanding. Willie, what are you saying? I'm offering you a job, not as my father, as someone who lived through this, who can help other families avoid making the same mistakes. I'm not offering reconciliation. I'm not saying we're fixed. Maybe we never will be. But I'm offering you a chance to do better for other kids, to break the cycle. Interested? He couldn't speak. He nodded, tears streaming. I would be honored. Start Monday, 9 in the morning. Don't be late. And Dad, this is a real job with real expectations. I'm not going easy on you because you're my father. If you can't meet the standards, you'll be let go. Understood? Understood. Thank you, Willie. Thank you. After he left, I sat alone in my office for a long time. Offering him that job hadn't been about forgiveness. It was about usefulness, about taking pain and turning it into purpose. If he could help even one family avoid the mistakes mine made, maybe some good could come from all this suffering. That night, I found a letter slipped under my apartment door. From Amber. 3 pages, handwritten, detailing everything she'd done wrong, taking full responsibility, asking for nothing in return. She'd moved to Pittsburgh, gotten a job at a small marketing firm, was seeing a therapist twice a week. She wrote, I don't expect you to respond. I don't expect anything from you ever again. I just wanted you to know that you deserve better than me. You deserved better than all of us. And I'm spending the rest of my life trying to become someone worthy of having a brother like you. I folded the letter carefully, placed it in my desk drawer. I didn't respond. Not yet. Maybe someday. Maybe never. The point was, I had the choice now. I controlled the terms of engagement. My mother sent occasional emails. Brief, respectful, never asking for anything. Thinking of you today. Saw an article about TechVision's new product. You must be proud. Your father is doing well at the foundation. He talks about it constantly. I read them. Sometimes I responded with a sentence or two. Sometimes I didn't. She never complained about my silence. The foundation held its first scholarship ceremony 6 months after its founding. We presented awards to 20 students from troubled families, kids who reminded me of myself. The ceremony was held in a nice hotel ballroom. We invited families, teachers, counselors. We made it special. One kid, a boy named Marcus, 17 years old, approached me afterward. He was thin, wore clothes that didn't quite fit, had the same tired eyes I used to see in my mirror. Mr. Bradford, thank you for this. My parents don't think I'll amount to anything. They spend everything on my brother's football equipment and college applications. This scholarship, it means everything. It means someone believes in me. I put my hand on his shoulder, felt emotion rise in my throat. You'll prove them wrong, Marcus. And here's something important. You won't do it for them. You'll do it for you. Because your worth isn't determined by their approval. It never was. He smiled, really smiled, and walked back to where his family waited. His parents looked uncomfortable, out of place. They hadn't wanted to come. Marcus had insisted. I watched him show them his scholarship certificate. Watched him stand a little taller. Maybe his family would change. Maybe they wouldn't. But Marcus would be okay either way. He had support now. He had options. Caroline approached with my coat. Ready to go, boss? It's getting late. Yeah. Let's go. As I walked out of the hotel into the cool evening air, my phone buzzed. A text from my father. Helped 3 families today identify favoritism patterns. Set them up with counseling. One mother broke down crying. Said I might have saved her relationship with her older son. Thank you for letting me do this. Love, Dad. I stared at that text for a long time. The word love at the end felt presumptuous. Too soon. Maybe always too soon. But the work he described, that mattered. That was real. I didn't respond immediately. But I didn't delete the message either. I saved it, filed it away, left the door open just a crack. Over the following months, my relationship with my family evolved into something new. Not what it was, not what it should have been, but something functional, boundaried, honest. My father worked diligently at the foundation, proved himself reliable and insightful. My mother attended therapy, worked on herself, respected my space. Amber built a life in Pittsburgh, sent occasional updates but never asked for more than I was willing to give. We would never be a normal family. That ship had sailed 28 years ago. But we could be honest with each other. We could be useful to each other. And maybe, someday far in the future, we could be something approximating healed. 1 year after the scandal broke, I stood in my office on a Sunday evening, alone with the sunset painting the city gold and crimson. I thought about that night in the rain, standing outside my childhood home with garbage bags at my feet. I'd felt so small then, so worthless, but I'd survived. More than survived. I'd built a life on my own terms, created success through my own effort, proved that my worth wasn't determined by my parents' approval. People often asked if I'd forgiven my family. The truth was complicated. Forgiveness wasn't a light switch I could flip. It was a door I was deciding whether to open, inch by inch, day by day. Some days the door cracked wider, some days it slammed shut. That was okay. Healing wasn't linear. It was messy and painful and slow. What I knew for certain was this: the approval I'd chased my whole life, the validation I'd craved, I finally found it. Not from them, from myself. I'd looked in the mirror and seen someone worthy, someone strong, someone who'd turned pain into purpose. Whether my family was part of my future or not, I'd be fine. Better than fine. Because the only approval that ever really mattered was my own. I grabbed my coat, turned off the lights, and headed home. Tomorrow was Monday. Tomorrow, I'd get back to work building something meaningful. Tomorrow, I'd mentor more kids who needed to hear that they mattered. Tomorrow, I'd prove again that success wasn't about where you started, but about who you chose to become. And that was enough. That was more than enough. That was everything. So let me ask you something, and I really want to hear your thoughts on this. Have you ever been the overlooked one in your family? Have you ever felt invisible, unappreciated, taken for granted by the people who were supposed to love you most? Or maybe you've seen this happen to someone else, a friend or a coworker or someone you care about. How did you handle it? What did you do when the people who should have supported you let you down? Drop your story in the comments below. Share your experience. Let's create a community where every person's story matters, where every voice gets heard. Because that's what this is really about, isn't it? Being seen, being valued, mattering. And if this story resonated with you, if it touched something in your heart or made you think differently about family dynamics and what we owe each other, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future stories. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it, someone who might be going through their own struggle with family favoritism or feeling undervalued. Your share might be exactly what someone needs today. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here, for caring, for taking the time to hear about the messy, complicated, painful, beautiful journey of becoming who you're meant to be despite the obstacles. I hope whatever you're facing today, whatever challenges you're dealing with, you remember this. Your worth isn't determined by anyone else's opinion of you, not your family's, not your friends', not society's. You determine your own worth. You define your own success. You write your own story. Take care of yourselves. Believe in yourselves. And remember, you matter. You've always mattered, even when nobody told you so. Until next time,